Greetings and welcome to a reflection on one of the most important jobs we have, and that is to become saints. Next week, we will begin another season of Lent, which is a wonderful opportunity to let down our defenses and see ourselves as God sees us. In other words, it's a call to be honest about ourselves. A good way to make the most of this holy season is to reflect on Jesus' very first sermon, the Sermon on the Mountain. It begins with the Beatitudes, which present us with many challenges of discipleship, and the summons to life-giving choices and holiness, all of which will lead us to a life of happiness and a whole lot more. The rest of the sermon takes up 3 chapters in Matthew's Gospel. And there we find Jesus instructing his disciples on what it means to be a follower of his. It will cost them many sacrifices, hardships, persecution, and perhaps martyrdom. One Sunday, a priest prepared a homily on a small segment of Jesus' first sermon. But in the end, he decided instead to read the whole sermon, all 3 chapters, to his congregation. After this Mass ended, some parishioners told him they didn't agree with some of the things he said in his sermon. And his reply was simply this: "I'm sorry to hear that, but you know what? That wasn't my sermon. That was Jesus' sermon, word for word." There are many things Jesus said that day, over 2,000 years ago, that we really like. But there are also things, a lot of things, in fact, we find hard to do. Loving our enemies is not easy. To be honest and true is easier said than done. Some people decide to water down Jesus' teachings into something that we can cope with, we can tolerate more easily, something that will give us a license to exclude some people who are different, and perhaps even allow us to hate them. One sentence in Jesus' sermon is especially challenging and so compelling. It is a good thought to take with us into the season of Lent. And this is what it sounds like: "Unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter into heaven." These words of warning surely have as much meaning for us today as they did for Jesus' people. It is likely that we can become good and decent people, but when we measure ourselves by the standards of Jesus and his lifestyle, I'm sure we're going to find that we are not all that good. There's always more room for growth in our efforts to become holy people. Though we will never be holy like our Father in heaven is holy, but that doesn't mean we should stop trying to become holy. The Pharisees and scribes were actually good people. They did all the right things. Jesus' objection, however, was that it did not go deep enough. They did everything for show. It didn't come from their hearts. It wasn't true and honest. God definitely wants us to live together in peace and harmony. No doubt about that. But that will never happen as long as we go on hating one another. God respects us, and He wants us to respect each other. But that's not going to happen either, as long as we continue to devalue others by using suggestive and demeaning words, and we are condescending. Perhaps we are more like the Pharisees of old than we care to admit. Too much on the surface stuff and not enough from the heart stuff where it really counts. Jesus calls us to walk in God's way. That is the way of forgiveness, mercy, and love. It is, after all, the lifestyle in the kingdom of heaven. When we walk in God's way of love, God's love will shine through us for all to see. And God will be glorified. God entered our lives as one like us in order to seek the lost and to heal those who were sick. This loving God came to give His life for us, and He offers us new life, a life deeper than we could ever imagine. Life in the kingdom of heaven demands more and promises more. It is abundant life. May God bless you and your family.